What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, the silence inside the music box. A Father Brown. Mystery, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing, in whispers in the fog, is ever what it seems. Chapter 1. The Guest Who Never Took Tea. Rain drummed against the ancient leaded windows of Holloway Manor, a symphony of chaos that mirrored the unrest within. The grand drawing-room lay heavy with the scent of polished mahogany and a faint whiff of fear that hung like a spectre. Just moments before, Lady Eliza Hollingsworth had been hosting a quaint afternoon tea with pearl necklaces glistening in the weakened sunlight. Now, however, all charms had evaporated, replaced by an acute tension that rendered the air almost palpable. The soft murmur of the guests turned to gasps of disbelief as she rushed in, her steady hands trembling to bring them the unthinkable news. Her husband, Sir Alfred, had been found dead in his study. Pinned by incredulity, the guests gawked at each other, their faces pale as shadows. Lady Eliza herself was a striking figure, a widow in the making, with sorrow as tangible as the lace that adorned her gown. Each guest looked fit to unravel, bound by their shared curiosity and a growing dread that burdened their hearts like an unrelenting storm cloud. He was locked inside, bolted from the inside, she whispered, her voice trembling as she sat down heavily upon the plush settee. The windows were barred, yet it is as if he simply ceased to exist. A ripple of unease washed through the room. Among the guests was a particular breed of societal elite, more accustomed to parties than peril. Lord Crispin, the flamboyant host, with a penchant for melodrama, Michael Grey, a rising politician with a haunted past, and Lady Margaret, the silent observer whose steely eyes concealed layers of ambition. Each of them wore the mask of shock, yet Father Brown, a humble priest with a heart bursting with insight, perceived a deeper complexity beneath their outward expressions. He remained resolute at the edges of the gathering, his sharp brown eyes glimmering as he took in the surrounding chaos. "Lady Eliza," he began, his voice a calming presence against the maelstrom, "has anyone attempted to open the study since you discovered Sir Alfred?" "A nearby maid," she murmured, but she stood frozen like a shadow at the doorway. "We all were." "Then let us proceed carefully. Mystery thrives on the nature of its veils," Father Brown replied, passionately fixated on the locked door. With subtle gestures, he beckoned the dissipating guests, who now surrounded him with bated breath. The priest's gaze ran briefly over the bolted door. "There is more to this tragedy than meets the eye, I assure you." Lord Crispin's face twisted with indignation. "My good Father, I do not wish to sound ungracious, but why do we now dwell on trivial nuances when a crime has been committed?" "Because," Father Brown replied, his expression imbuing warmth amidst the chill, "within a locked chamber lies the essence of truth, Lord Crispin, a truth we must extract delicately and with purpose." The rain intensified outside, a wild orchestra vibrating against the manor's walls. Father Brown's eyes twinkled with determination, then shifted back to Lady Eliza. "Pray tell, my lady, what was the nature of your husband's associations? Did he have any dealings that might have led to a dispute?" "A county dignitary does attract attention, it is true," she replied, her voice tight. "Yet he confided little. I am the very last person to judge his affairs." Father Brown marked the shadows beneath her eyes, hinting at something deeper than mere sorrow. Be that as it may, the study in question holds the answers we seek. If one of you would kindly procure the key from Lady Eliza, we may begin. As the guests buzzed with uncertainty, Michael Gray stepped forward, forcing an anxious smile as he retrieved the key from the trembling Lady Eliza's hand. He turned toward the door, yet his hand faltered, the metal only a fragment of the anxiety that clouded the room. Yet he steeled himself and leaned into the task, unlocking the door with a faint click. The study was a tomb of knowledge, its walls adorned with tomes that whispered secrets of old. The atmosphere thickened as they crowded behind Father Brown, who stepped over the threshold into the dim-lit room with calculated grace, the light flickering over the lavish furnishings. On the grand mahogany desk, papers lay scattered as if an invisible whirlwind had taken hold. Father Brown crouched next to Sir Alfred's seated figure, now forever caught in a moment of tranquility disrupted by violence. The butler had mentioned in hushed tones that the late Sir Alfred had particular aversions to tea, insisting on avoiding its consumption at gatherings, an oddity that now struck him. "Is it not peculiar," Father Brown mused aloud, examining the overturned cup on the desk, stained colours presiding just so, that our Honourable Sir Alfred found himself consumed by his own brew of misfortune, given his aversion? Elysium, it would seem, a false elixir. Lady Margaret's voice broke through the reverie. "But what do you mean? One drink from a shattered cup means nothing." "An elixir can come in many shapes, Lady Margaret," Father Brown replied, his eyes now deepening with conviction. "But the heart, the heart can betray those it loves. I can sense secrets linger like ghosts in the walls of this very room." He surveyed the guests one by one, noting their unease. Michael's eyes darted toward Lady Margaret, who wore a mask of cool detachment. Crispin cleared his throat. "You imply deeper entanglements within our circle, Father?" Before Father Brown could unveil the next thread of speculation, the sound of footsteps approached from the hallway. With a sudden, vibrant intensity, the door swung open to reveal Inspector Mallory, rain-soaked and resolute, with an urgency that cut through the previous tension. "Father Brown, you must see this." "Mallory, what a fortuitous arrival," Father Brown exclaimed, as a sense of fresh urgency fueled his resolve. "What have you discovered?" The inspector revealed a crumpled piece of parchment, clumsily scrawled but unmistakable. Outside, in the garden by the hedges, it seemed Sir Alfred had a visitor before his demise. Father Brown leaned closer, the revelation unfurling his deductions with elegant acuity. A visitor? Yet there are no traces of a struggle, no footprints past the threshold. But before he could complete his thoughts, another thunderclap shook Holloway Manor, and all eyes darted to the windows. The deluge outside intensified, and in that moment, a chilling certainty unfurled in Father Brown's mind. The revelation buried within that piece of parchment was but the beginning of a labyrinthine mystery, steeped in dark ambitions, lies, and deceit. As rain cascaded like a deluge against the ancient stone walls, Father Brown's heart raced with anticipation. The storm had only just begun, and within the depth of Holloway Manor, truth was lurking like a coiled serpent, awaiting its chance to strike. And so, with poised conviction and the frantic urgency of a master storyteller, he began to unravel the threads that tied them all together, leaving behind a cliffhanger that would lead straight into questions wrapped in secrecy as the hour drew darker. Chapter 2. A Toulon Tragedy. The rain had not ceased since the revelations at Holloway Manor, each drop a mournful note in the unfolding symphony of despair. Inside, in the velvety shadows of the drawing-room, a group of agitated souls exchanged furtive glances. Tension clung to the air, palpable and unyielding, heavy with misplaced trust and whispered secrets. As the clock ticked ominously on the mantelpiece, Father Brown adjusted his spectacles, his heart steady even as the gravity of the situation weighed upon him. He had scarcely begun to process the implications of the crumpled parchment discovered in the garden when a sound penetrated the tension. A sharp knock echoed through the manor like the crack of thunder. Lady Eliza jumped, her delicate fingers clenching the edge of her embroidered shawl. "What now?" she breathed, glancing nervously at Father Brown and then at the door. "All we can do is face it," he replied, his voice a steady beacon amidst the storm. "Let us see who seeks entry to this tempest." As he moved to open the door, the guests gathered closer, each one a tableau of anxiety, their expressions remaining unmoved yet rapidly questioning. The heavy oak swung inward to reveal a figure cloaked in darkness, water streaming from a wide-brimmed hat that obscured his features. With a deliberate motion, the stranger removed his hat, revealing a young man with strikingly sharp features and an intensity in his gaze. "Missed the afternoon tea, I see," he commented, wryly, though none seemed in the mood for humor. "I am Henry Beaumont, a confidant of the late Sir Alfred." "Confidant?" Father Brown studied the newcomer carefully, wanting to glean trust from his intention. "Yet your timing is unorthodox. What brings you to the manor now?" "News I believe you all wish to hear," Beaumont replied, shaking off droplets like a wet dog. He stepped into the drawing-room, brushing past the assembled guests. "It concerns a letter from Toulon, delivered not an hour prior to Sir Alfred's unfortunate demise." At the mention of Toulon, a ripple of unease prickled the guests. Even Father Brown sensed a shift in the atmosphere, an invisible thread tugging at their collective memory. "A letter, you say? Might one presume it carried significance?" Beaumont nodded gravely, a shadow flickering in his eyes. "Sir Alfred was embroiled in affairs beyond our quiet county. There are whispers of monetary disputes, and upon receiving that letter, he kept it oddly close to him, mentioning only that its contents were to remain secret. I thought whatever burden he bore might have influenced his fate." "Then, who bore him that letter?" Michael Gray interjected, a hint of skepticism coloring his tone. "And why should we trust your word?" Beaumont met the politician's gaze, unfazed. "Because, sir, I am as perplexed as you. I had to learn of his passing through unreliable channels. I hurried here, surmising it might shed light on why the fool was locked away. Indubitably, accomplices, with ill intent, may have slipped through the cracks." Father Brown's keen interest sharpened, capturing nuances that others overlooked. "Tell us of this letter, Mr. Beaumont. Where is it now? Did you not bring it?" "I have no such document with me," the young man said, rubbing the back of his neck with unease. "It was taken by a stranger, a woman I saw leaving the manor just before I arrived. She seemed hurried, glancing over her shoulder as if pursued by ghosts." "Before you arrived?" Father Brown uttered softly, his gaze unlocking memories buried within the shadowy recesses of those gathered. "Indulge my curiosity. How did you know of its significance?" "I overheard Sir Alfred in conversation before I left," Beaumont explained, his manner growing more animated. "There was talk of a transaction, one laden with mounting desperation that hinted at betrayal. He feared for his life, you see. It seemed that letter contained evidence that would entangle far deeper mysteries than mere finances." Lady Margaret, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward, her voice low yet steady. "Are you suggesting that someone sought to gain something of value from him, something he possessed that may not simply concern commerce, but perhaps status?" Father Brown interjected, his mind racing through possibilities. "Or power, even influence among those who would see him fallen. Tell me, did he mention any names?" Beaumont hesitated, but the earnestness in Father Brown's eyes urged him on. Only in passing, there was a discussion of the Montrose estate, of debts owed to certain individuals across the seas. It was rumored there were players from abroad interested in expanding their reach into our little pockets of society. "Players," Michael echoed, a hint of disdain creeping into his voice. "You mean criminals. So Sir Alfred dealt with thieves dressed in finery, and it led to his doom." Father Brown observed a flicker of guilt twist Lady Eliza's features at the mention of debts. Her unease told more than words could convey. "The truth is layered," he said thoughtfully. "Mr. Beaumont, could it be that Sir Alfred's demise was a product of those shadows from Toulon?" Before Beaumont could respond, Lady Eliza's voice broke through the gathering storm. "I will not listen to this talk of betrayal and speculation. My husband is dead. This is not a game." The tension escalated, voices overlapping, frenetic energy setting the room ablaze. Yet amid the discord, Father Brown's mind raced. "We must calm ourselves and unravel these threads. This might be leading us into a greater web." A moment of strained silence fell over the group as they collectively inhaled, the weight of sorrow punctuated by the rain's relentless percussion. Father Brown stepped toward the door, having pieced together a fragile thread, leading him to new inquiries. "If I do not miss my guess, we need find this woman who took the letter. She may hold the key to Sir Alfred's final moments. A woman delivering secrets might yield silence, but it is a catastrophe we must prevent." As he turned, taking a determined step toward the exit, a knock echoed against the heavy door once more, far more insistent this time. All eyes turned to it, a claustrophobic tension enveloping them. Father Brown exchanged knowing glances with Beaumont. "Shall we see what new truths await us?" With a sense of urgency charged in the air, he gripped the doorknob, the cold metal sending a shiver down his spine. As the door creaked open, a chill gust roared in, perhaps portending darker fates concealed beneath the surface. What stood behind the threshold promised more than just a mystery. It heralded secrets waiting to entrench Holloway Manor deeper into a labyrinth fraught with danger. The storm swelled, external and internal. Truth was at the precipice, and they teetered dangerously close. As he glimpsed the figure standing outside, a jolt of recognition slammed into Father Brown, an unfurling wave of horror washing over him. The woman from before, drenched but undeniably compelling, held the letter in her hands, its edges torn and charred, the contents mysteriously revealed to the world through the thin veil of firelight behind her eyes. "Father Brown," she rasped, her breath coming in uneven bursts. "You must listen. The truth about Sir Alfred, and much worse. It's all here." Father Brown's skin prickled with foreboding as he stepped forward, aware they were standing at a fateful crossroads of revelation or destruction. Chapter 3. The Man at the Window. As the rain continued its relentless patter against the stone facade of Holloway Manor, a low rumble of thunder underscored the sudden silence that enveloped the drawing room. The atmosphere shifted, palpable with the apprehension that danced in the flickering shadows cast by the fire. Father Brown's gaze darted from the drenched figure of the woman the mysterious bearer of the charred letter, to the faces of the assembled guests, each etched with a combination of anxiety and growing suspicion. "I presume this is of importance," Beaumont interjected, stepping closer to assess the newcomer with keen interest. "You have no idea how important," she breathed, clutching the letter as if it were a talisman against the gathering storm of incrimination. The paper, crumpled and marked by the elements, still contained secrets waiting to be revealed. "Please," Father Brown urged, "take a moment to gather your thoughts. We are all on edge, not least because of the man who lies dead in your home." The woman nodded, and her deep-set eyes darted toward the window, where the shadows seemed thicker than they ought to be. "I saw him," she whispered, glancing back at the group. "The man at the window, the moment I stepped outside." "Who, exactly?" Lady Eliza pressed, her voice strained. "Is there another spectre haunting us tonight?" "Not a ghost," the woman replied, her composure emerging like a fragile leaf in the fall. "A man. A man I'd never seen before, watching from the garden." At her revelation, Father Brown felt a shift in the dynamics of the room. "What you saw adds peculiar depths to our inquiry," he said, narrowing his eyes. "And was he alone? Or did you catch his intentions?" "Alone, but he moved as though burdened by purpose," she answered, seemingly summoning courage with each word. "A figure shrouded in darkness. I had hoped he was just a trick of the mind, but when I returned, I found—" She glanced at the charred remnants of the letter gone, and the whispers of danger closing in. Father Brown took a step closer, his brow furrowing with realization. "Every secret we've shared tonight may conceal yet another layer of intrigue. We must ascertain what you witnessed in the garden, for it may guide us further down this treacherous path." He turned toward the guests, who remained tense, their expressions now keenly attuned to the unfolding drama. "Inspector Mallory, you mentioned in your earlier findings the lack of footprints past the threshold, but you also drew attention to something in the garden. Might we explore that lead?" Just as the inspector was about to confirm, an unexpected crashing sound curled from the outside, a resonant echo carrying through the hall as the wind howled past. "Must we endure all this noise?" Michael Gray huffed, unable to conceal his irritation. "Can no one appreciate turmoil without succumbing to theatrics?" "Not theatrics, Mr. Gray. Truth," Beaumont shot back, his irritation mirroring Gray's, though laced with more urgency. "Sir Alfred's death may very well be wrapped in a web of deceit spun by everyone in this room. We should unravel that web, not scowl at its threads." "Focus, gentlemen," Father Brown remarked, redirecting the conversation like a ship caught off course by storm. "Might we examine the immediate environment? This is no time for distractions. Each detail, each whisper carried on these winds could turn your alibi into a tangled snare." Suddenly, Lady Margaret straightened her posture, her voice refined but urgent. "Such tension is counterproductive. If there is a man at the window and there was a letter, perhaps we should discover the connection, or face the consequences." As the group contemplated Lady Margaret's statement, they became cognizant of a growing unease, a presence felt rather than seen, like a draught under the door, or ripples in still water. Father Brown glanced toward the window, a lingering flicker igniting in his thoughts. "Perhaps we should take a look outside, inspect the garden." He gestured to the door leading to the tempest outside, but suddenly a hand raised impeded his advance. "Absolutely not," Lady Eliza exclaimed, her tone a blend of fear and protective insistence. "What lies in that garden? It's where we lost him. Whatever remains of Sir Alfred's worldly affairs should be honored with distance, away from equals." "Or complicity," Beaumont interjected, crossing his arms defiantly. "If I were guilty, I might hope to gain strength from such fear. The unknown is far more alluring than the truth. Through words alone, we branch towards deception," Father Brown remarked, slipping his spectacles further down his nose as he studied the guests. "But we know of the letter's significance and of this mysterious witness. Our inquiries grow murky by your half-truths and secrets. We must leave no footstep unexamined." Scrutinizing everyone's expressions, Father Brown noted the subtle shifts in their demeanor, the unsteady breaths, and the exchange of uneasy glances. He turned toward the door once more and made a firm resolution. "We will not yield to darkness, nor let cowardice smother the truth we seek." With purpose, he strode toward the door, undeterred by the hesitance of those within. The storm had long turned howling, and with a simple twist of the knob, the outdoors rushed in, a torrent of rain whipping through the air, thickening with the scent of damp earth, shadowy figures lurking just out of sight. In that moment, a sudden resolve gripped Father Brown as he stepped onto the terrace, his breath swallowed by the storm. "Footprints!" he exclaimed, noticing faint impressions barely visible in the muddy garden soil. "Look! What could those footprints reveal?" Lady Eliza summoned her courage, inching cautiously toward the fringes of the terrace. "These tell a tale," Father Brown replied, bending low to inspect them, recognizing the print of a boot alongside an odd splay of toe prints. Recent and hastily made, they seem to lead across the garden and disappear beneath the hedge. The group stirred restlessly behind him, confusion tangible in the air. "To discover where they lead may indeed unshackle our answers," Father Brown continued, gesturing toward the direction of the footprints. But just then, a chilling realization crept upon him, a sense of compounding dread, as if the very shadows of the manor harbored secrets that thrived upon connection and isolation. As they began to follow, their footsteps melding with the rain-soaked ground, the mysterious woman turned back, her words barely rising above the storm. "You don't understand. With every step you take, you draw closer to danger." "Then let us meet it head-on," Father Brown replied resolutely, determination etched on his features. "For the truth does not hide. It simply waits for us to find it." And as they ventured forward into the darkness of the garden, the whisper of footsteps echoed ominously behind them. The shadowy figure at the window, now a persistent ghost in Father Brown's mind, a reminder that they were not yet alone in their search for answers. And to what cost might the truth be revealed? The night loomed dangerously ahead, secrets teetering precariously upon the precipice of revelation. Chapter 4. The Will in the Vicar's Study. The oppressive stillness inside Holloway Manor was shattered by the sudden crash of thunder, reverberating through the heavy wooden beams like an omen. Father Brown stood in the dim light of the drawing room, eyes narrowed on the drenched figure of the mysterious woman, still grasping the charred letter as though it were a lifeline. For once, his instincts clamored for urgency and truth, and he could feel the anxious energy of the others merging with his own. As the woman took a step forward, her voice trembled. "You must help me. There's a will, Sir Alfred's will, but I fear it has been hidden." The revelation sent a ripple through the room, each person glancing hesitantly at another. Father Brown sensed the weight of history, of fortunes lost and familial betrayals hanging in the air like a thick fog. Hidden? Beaumont echoed, his brow furrowing in suspicion. Why would anyone hide a will? There's only one reason, a fortune to protect. Or to destroy, interjected Lady Eliza, her voice slicing through the tension. If there's no will, what becomes of Holloway Manor and its legacy? Father Brown shifted towards the door, sensing the approach of something more significant than the storm outside, a whispered truth hiding within the walls of the manor. Before we jump to conclusions, we must learn why the will is missing. Who would benefit most from its absence? In that instant, an insistent knock on the heavy oak door punctuated their deliberation, drawing their gazes as the tension thickened once more. Father Brown took a step toward the door, and when he opened it, a tall figure stood in the frame. Mr. Oldham, the family solicitor, his brow drenched and shoulders slightly hunched under the weight of his own misgivings. "Father Brown," he began, breathless as if he had battled the storm to reach them, "I have grave news that I dared not share without certainty. After Sir Alfred's passing, I discovered—" He hesitated, his eyes flitting nervously to the assembly. "He left no will." "What do you mean? Surely, for a man of his stature, there must be—" Lady Margaret's voice trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air. "Yes," Mr. Oldham continued, his voice trembling slightly. "By law, with no will to guide the inheritance, the estate will revert to the Crown unless someone comes forth with rightful claim. There is a fortune extending beyond this manor, a hidden lineage that intertwines our families in ways I dare not voice." "Hidden lineage?" echoed Father Brown, his mind racing with images of swirling fortunes and secret histories tucked away within dusty bookshelves and locked drawers. "I assume a man of your standing has a proper account of our family's histories." "I do indeed," Oldham replied, his gaze lowering, hidden beneath layers of dishonor. "But I must confide in more than just whispers. There must be days light on this. A map, perhaps. One that seems to indicate where this hidden fortune lies." Before the solicitor could share more, a bolt of lightning illuminated the heavy atmosphere, and the group exchanged fearful glances. "There's no time," Father Brown urged. "Tell me, Mr. Oldham, what evidence do you possess about this fortune?" "I have a ledger in my study, containing archives of several generations' worth of secrets, a peculiar tome of both history and debts long concealed." He swallowed hard. "I hid it in my office, but I fear others may be led there also. They'll want the same fortune." With that remark, an unmistakable chill trailed down Father Brown's spine. "Then we must guard it, and quickly. Lady Eliza, Beaumont, accompany Mr. Oldham. Seek this ledger while we still have time." As they moved to comply, the sound of rain intensified, punctuated by the creaking floorboards that seemed to mourn the memory of long-dead secrets. Father Brown lingered, a weight in his chest, acutely aware of the pallor of suspicion that lingered in the air, growing heavier by the moment. Entering the vicar's study required navigating a narrow corridor lined with family portraits whose eyes bore witness to the unfolding events. Dust motes danced in the flickering candlelight, and as he crossed the threshold into the study, a palpable sense of history pressed in on him. The old oak desk, littered with yellowed parchments and neatly stacked ledgers, told of a life spent in diligence, yet a crack in the veneer hinted at darker tides below the surface. There perched an imposing bookshelf brimming with volumes, yet one, in particular, caught Father Brown's attention. a leather-bound tome, adorned with intricate borders and embossed letters, equally aged and eerie. As he approached it, his fingers brushed over the spine, sending waves of unease rippling through him. With deliberate care, he extracted it from its resting place, the musty scent of well-worn pages assailing his senses. "What do you hide?" he murmured under his breath, before flipping it open. Within its pages lay stories of familial alliances, tales of betrayal, and among them a diagram detailing the lineage of the Holloways, a lineage interwoven with betrayals that reached back decades. "Father Brown," Beaumont's voice suddenly pierced through his thoughts. "We've looked through Mr. Oldham's desk, but the ledger—" But Father Brown held up a hand, absorbed in the mists of revelation. "This book reveals their entanglements, each entry pervaded with luxuries that could be masked beneath the gilded surface. The deaths in this family tell tales of greed and entanglement beyond money, and perhaps something more sinister." Suddenly, the door burst open, and the team returned, winded but victorious. "We found it!" Lady Eliza exclaimed, clutching a thick leather binder filled with parchment. "This ledger, it lays bare dealings that ensure the family has sources of wealth hidden to the public eye. Then we must peruse it carefully, as every line may be crucial," Father Brown stated, his mind racing. "What if the innermost secrets within this book tie to the events of this very night? Hidden fortunes may not just fuel aspirations, they could slip into the realm of deadly ambition." As they exchanged glances, a sharpened resolve settled over the group. Lightning flashed, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced fears, and as the shadows danced eerily across the room, Father Brown felt himself teetering at the cliff of an unspoken truth. "Neither brotherhood nor treachery treads lightly when fortunes await," he murmured, already consumed by the implications. "But tonight, we must not let the veil of darkness cloud our sight. We are at the brink of discovering just how tangled these lives have become." And just as the words settled heavy in the air, the wind howled with an unmistakable urgency, beckoning them toward the truths buried deep in the pages, buried secrets that some would kill to keep hidden, and one, perhaps, who would stand in their way. Chapter 5. The Nocturne's Echo. The storm outside howled like a banshee, rattling windows and sending shadows dancing across the dimly lit library in Holloway Manor. A flicker of lightning cast an ethereal glow, revealing the rapt faces of those gathered under the weight of unspoken fears. Sleek, polished wood glinted beneath the haze of candlelight. Yet it was the mournful melody drifting from the old gramophone that seized Father Brown's attention, a haunting nocturne, seemingly echoing his own trepidations. "What on earth is that tune?" Beaumont leaned closer, brows knitted in shared curiosity. Father Brown, eyes narrowed in concentration, turned toward the gramophone. "It does not sound like mere music, but sorrow woven into each note. It is familiar." He stepped forward, drawn by the melody that seemed to beckon him from the recesses of his memory. Lady Eliza, her expression both curious and apprehensive, gestured to the room's opulent decor. "It's a relic from Sir Alfred's collection. Such a strange coincidence, don't you think?" "Coincidence? More like a clue waiting to be unraveled," Father Brown replied, the gears of his mind turning swiftly. "Music often carries with it the ghosts of old grievances. Could it be a way to communicate?" Without waiting for a response, Father Brown followed the sound of the mournful tune through the library, leading him to a narrow corridor seldom traveled. The air thickened with history, and the creak of wooden floorboards was swallowed by the sounds of the tempest outside. Each echo bore a reminder of stories long buried within these walls. As he ventured deeper into the corridor, a sense of foreboding settled over him, a marked contrast to the opulence surrounding the manor. It stemmed from an unsettling conviction that the nocturne was not played by accident, but rather orchestrated to invoke memories steeped in wrath and betrayal. Suddenly, the music reached a crescendo before grinding to a halt. The abrupt silence hung heavily around him. Father Brown halted, sensing he was not alone. He cast a cautious glance behind him, but the corridor lay empty, just shadows and whispers that mocked him. "Why would someone summon dark memories?" he muttered, his breath visible in the chill of the air. A sudden thought struck him, reminding him that motives are often steeped in the very emotions we strive to hide. He returned to the main room, where the others awaited, their faces illuminated not only by flickering candlelight, but also by the uncertainty swirling amidst them. Lady Eliza stood at the ready, with an expression of concern. "Father Brown, what did you find?" "I believe we are sitting at the precipice of clarity," he replied, stepping back into the room filled with tangible tension. "There lies history within this house that continues to resonate, a tune familiar to those entangled in its strings. We are but players in a grand orchestration of familial intrigue." With that conviction, he repositioned himself toward the fireplace. A tapestry of family portraits watched over him, their painted eyes glinting with hidden knowledge. The nocturne may be linked to more than melancholy. It could be a signal of unresolved grievances between the Holloways. "An overture to a darker narrative?" Beaumont echoed, intrigued as Father Brown sought the shadows lurking beyond the polished veneer. Without skipping a beat, Father Brown seized the moment. "Mr. Oldham, you mentioned a ledger that contained your family's darkest secrets. Do these secrets tie to any animosities reflected in the music?" The solicitor's demeanor shifted. An imperceptible change washed over his countenance. "I wouldn't wish to suggest anything untoward regarding our family legacy," he faltered, apprehension creeping into his voice. "Yet, it is the very nature of legacies that urges us not to forget, is it not?" Father Brown pushed gently, perceptions sharpening. "Perhaps it is not the absence of the will, but the songs of old that offer the answers we seek." A sudden revelation seized Father Brown. This nocturne reflects history, a mirrored anguish between bloodlines that transcended mere wealth. Surely the sad strains might whisper the names of those who sought to benefit from Sir Alfred's silence. He moved back into the shadows, sensing the tension draw thicker around them, and with that, he felt their powers tasked with obscuring some truth that, once revealed, may have dire consequences for them all. Beaumont stepped forward. "Father Brown, you must listen to me. This music, could it link to the footprints we examined in the garden?" "Indeed," Father Brown responded, recalling the echo of those impressions, footprints formed by an unknown intention, yet to be trembled into the light. The idea swirled. Perhaps the nocturne didn't just echo the sorrow of years past, but of regrets, compelling electric deeds in the shadows. Of course, whoever followed or made those tracks could be led by this very melody, Lady Eliza interjected excitedly. "They may have returned or left here with more intention than a wayward wretch wouldn't dare admit." Father Brown nodded, warmed to the cause. A gambler, perhaps, a throw of chance, to be moved by the nostalgic undertone of the piece, or agitated by its emergence. "I suspect someone was drawn here, compelled by remembrance, or," he paused, eyes dancing between them, "for entirely darker reasons." Just then, an unexpected knock resounded from the heavy oak door. All eyes snapped towards it, a taut silence reigning within the room. Yet behind that door, the music lingered as echoing notes continued to wrap tightly around them. "Answer it, please," Lady Eliza urged, a quiver of anxiety threading through her voice. The storm persisted, and Father Brown stepped towards the door, determined to unveil who awaited beyond it, perhaps a bearer of tragic news or a harbinger of further darkness. He opened the door, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, a man soaked from the storm, his eyes wide with desperation. I seek Father Brown," he stuttered, a tremor running through him. "You must. There's something sinister afoot. I overheard a plot of a betrayal unlike any else. You must listen to me. The nocturne echoes warnings, untold." As he spoke, the fragmented pieces of the nocturne intertwined with the chilling revelation, leading Father Brown's thoughts into a world where trust had no place and motives lay hidden beneath the surface of civility. "Then, let us unearth what lurks beneath this melody," Father Brown replied, heart racing, "for in its echo we may finally unveil the truth buried deeper than we dared to go." The man stepped into the threshold, urgency triggering action within Father Brown. This ominous confession, paired with the lingering strains of that ghostly tune, promised to lead them into the very heart of darkness, where the true nature of betrayal awaited. Each note a step toward understanding that on this stormy night the past and present would collide with deadly ferocity. Chapter 6. The Portrait in the Hallway. The storm raged outside, lashing sheets of rain against the windows of Holloway Manor as Father Brown stepped into the candlelit foyer. The pungent scent of wet earth mingled uneasily with the mustiness of the aged decor, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. He noted the shadows flickering ominously on the walls and felt as if the very structure of the manor breathed a disquieting sigh, sharing its secrets through the tempestuous night. With the echoes of the haunting nocturne still reverberating in his thoughts, he felt an urgency to seek out the origins of the family's tangled history. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the hallway, momentarily revealing an imposing portrait of Sir Alfred, Holloway adorned in his military garb, an air of authority emanating from his painted visage. Father Brown's instincts prickled. There was something about this portrait, a shallow glimmer in the depths of his memory, beckoning him closer, as if urging him to look beyond the surface. "Father Brown, are you all right?" Lady Eliza's voice broke through his musings, concern etched on her features. "You seem lost in thought." "Yes, my dear. The portrait possesses an unspoken weight that must be examined." He sighed, pondering the secrets behind the stern gaze that watched over them. As he took a step nearer, he noticed something precarious peeking from behind the canvas, an odd contour hidden amongst the fine mahogany frame. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it fueled his curiosity. Gingerly, he reached out, brushing a finger against the ornate detailing of the frame. With a subtle push, he shifted the portrait aside, revealing a concealed compartment. His breath caught in his throat, and with deliberate care, he pried the compartment open, revealing a brittle letter, clearly aged and hastily folded. The script was fine, yet elegant, its looping cursive still intact despite decades of neglect. "Good heavens," Beaumont exclaimed, joining Father Brown's side. "What have you found?" "Only the beginnings of a revelation, I suspect." Father Brown unfolded the letter, his brow furrowed in concentration as he deciphered the contents, the room stilling around him in anticipation. As he read, the words began to paint a picture, a web of relationships fraught with envy, longing, and betrayal. Lines danced between ink strokes, revealing affairs, alliances, and an ominous reference to a meeting set on a night of thunder, a night very much like this. Eliza let out a soft gasp, stepping closer. "What does it say, Father?" "There are names here, entwined like branches of a twisted tree," he murmured, the gravity of revelation settling in. "A Miss Clara Wren. She was once dear to Sir Alfred. The letter speaks of a promise to meet, and a threat, perhaps intended to sever that bond." "What kind of threat?" Beaumont inquired, leaning in closer, hungry for more. "A betrayal of the deepest kind. It seems one feared losing favor, securing wealth or affection by any means necessary." Father Brown's sharp gaze flickered toward Lady Eliza. This could explain the tension among the heirs. To be reminded of those who came before them and the sacrifices perpetrated merely for status, it breeds shadows in the hearts of men. Before Eliza could respond, a cacophony of thunder echoed, reverberating through the manor's hallways, as if nature itself was outraged. The sudden burst of sound jolted the air, and they all paused, a collective awareness settling in. They had uncovered a thread, and it was woven directly into the fabric of tonight's turmoil. "Father, could it be that Miss Wren was—" Beaumont began, but Father Brown raised a hand. "Not yet, Beaumont. We tread carefully. This letter may bring to light motives hidden beneath layers of civility." He tucked the brittle letter under his arm, glancing between them, sensing their unease. "We must share this among the group. The family dynamics are at stake here, and a confrontation may lead to unforeseen consequences." Lady Eliza nodded, an apprehensive look darting across her face. What if they aren't ready to confront these issues? What if this revelation only serves to deepen their divisions? Then it is our duty to wield the truth wisely. Father Brown turned, heading back toward the gathering of guests. "Let us face this storm together, lest it tears asunder that which remains whole." As they moved back into the main room, the air was thick with the lingering notes of the nocturne, a chilling reminder of the complexities and resentments wrapped within the family's history. Faces turned as Father Brown entered, eyes inquisitive and brimming with suppressed fears, attention clinging to the air like smoke. "Father Brown, any news?" Mr. Oldham interjected, his solicitor demeanor coaching his posture. "Indeed," he replied, the weight of the letter palpable in his grasp. He stepped forward, glancing toward the darkened corners of the room and its inhabitants. "I believe we have unveiled a fragment of the Holloway legacy. A letter hidden within Sir Alfred's portrait speaks of a bond once held with a Miss Clara Wren and hints at lurking threats to that bond." A ripple of shock swept across the room. Thoughts sparked a quick exchange of glances as Lady Eliza stepped forward to support Father Brown's revelation. The tensions here merely echo dissatisfaction, anxieties, and perhaps guilt, a legacy divided by desires unmet. "Guilt?" Beaumont cut in. "Father, do you mean someone here might have conspired against old Sir Alfred? Not just Sir Alfred, but perhaps even Clara, and now among the living heirs who harbor deep-seated grievances," Father Brown replied, his voice firm. "We are all custodians of our pasts, but it is those very pasts that can drive us to commit the most unthinkable of betrayals when given enough upheaval." As the storm struck again, rattling the windows, a shiver coursed through the gathered party. They stood caught between intrigue and dread, bonds poised on the edge of unspeakable conflict, with palpable air of uncertainty crackling around them. Lady Eliza took a breath, her eyes wide. Father Brown, do you think any within these walls could be capable of following through on such a threat?" In that moment, just as his lips parted to respond, the heavy oak door swung open with a sudden crash, sweeping a gust of wind through the room. The guests recoiled in shock, and within the veil of shifting shadows, another figure loomed. "Forgive my abruptness," came a voice, a chilling tone, smooth as dripping honey. The man stepped into the light, revealing a face both alluring and unsettling, carrying an air of confidence wrapped tightly around something darker. "Who are you?" Father Brown demanded, the tension building like the storm above them. "I am merely a student of these fascinating affairs, one intrigued by heart-rending melody and whispered treachery." His smile was almost predatory. "And it seems, Father Brown, that you've garnered quite the audience for your little discoveries, or should I say, your next course of revelation." With every word, the stranger cast an unsettling shadow across the room, and Father Brown felt the walls of the manor close in around them, the veil of civility quivering and failing, inching closer to the heart of buried truths lurking beneath the surface. The true meaning of that letter spun heavily in his mind, threatening to unveil the depth of darkness that had struck this night. As the air thickened with unspoken passions and unveiled secrets, he recognized that the true storm was not just outside, but within. The forces orchestrated by the hands of fate were gearing up for a deadly revelation. In a single breath, he sensed that the next actions could lead them down an irrevocable path. Meanwhile, eyes narrowed across the room. The tension coiled tighter, echoing louder even, through the relentless storm. Father Brown understood, instinctively, that they were on the cusp of chaos, a revelation as fragile and brittle as the very letter he clutched, promising to alter everything they thought they understood about loyalty and betrayal within the Holloway lineage. Chapter 7. A Shadow at Matins. A cold chill swept through St. Mary's Church, accentuated by the haunting silence that followed the conclusion of Sunday service. Father Brown lingered at the altar, tracing the edges of the aged wood with a steadying hand, lost in contemplation. Beyond the stained glass windows, a vigorous autumn wind rattled the branches of the ancient oaks, offering a dissonant harmony that tugged at his thoughts. The congregation had dispersed, leaving only the echoes of their whispered confessions and shared glances. It was not the kind of day where trouble lurked, yet, as he contemplated the peculiarities of recent events at Holloway Manor, something unsettled him. "Father, you are pensive." A soft voice broke through his reverie. It was Lady Eliza, her presence a delicate contrast to the brooding church. Observing her finely tailored dress, Father Brown sensed a vulnerability encapsulated beneath her composed facade. "You've been quiet since the service concluded. Is it the matter with the Holloways that weighs on your mind?" "The shadows of their history reach far, my dear," Father Brown replied, keenly aware that she was not merely a spectator to the saga unfolding around them. "Gossip, like the rain outside, can wash away far more than the dirt from our boots. It can uncover secrets long buried." He paused, studying the anxious flicker in her eyes. "Do you know of the Wren family?" A frown flickered across Eliza's features, an imperceptible tightening of her jaw. "Only by hearsay. They have faded from local memory, I believe, veiled with scandal." Father Brown nodded, crossing over to a nearby pew as he continued to ruminate aloud. "The letter. Clara Wren's name appears with an intensity that suggests she was more than just a passing acquaintance to Sir Alfred. That connection could anchor the frustrations simmering amongst his heirs. A sudden memory flashed in his mind, a whispered name amongst the murmurs at the manor. Tell me, do you recall any specifics of the Wren scandal? Eliza hesitated, a storm cloud forming behind her brow. There was talk of an indiscretion, something that shattered relationships within that family and cast a long shadow over the Holloway legacy. Miss Clara was involved, but the details have become quite muddied over time. Ah, he murmured thoughtfully, muddied yet still present. As the shadows lengthen, so does the truth, and clinging to it is the mist of history. He stood, a sudden realization igniting his thoughts. There was a tapestry woven into their fates that needed closer examination, one that held more than mere promises of seduction. It was fraught with dark betrayals. A soft footfall interrupted their conversation. Mr. Beaumont entered, his face pale, even under the dim light. "Father, Lady Eliza," he said breathlessly, moving quickly to their side. "A young man has been found at Holloway Manor. He resembles the previous guest, who brought that dreadful nocturne to your ears." Father Brown's heartbeat quickened. "What happened?" "It appears he's dead," Beaumont stammered, visibly shaken. "The storm did not grant him mercy. He was discovered near the pond, and no one seems to know how he came to be there." "What was the cause?" Eliza interjected, her voice trembling slightly. "Preliminary assumptions hint at foul play," Beaumont breathed, his words heavy with implication. "Some believe he was pursued, others that he provoked someone's ire. The moment he whispered to you, Father, I believe he set something in motion that couldn't be halted." Father Brown felt as if the walls of St. Mary's had become an echo chamber, resonating with the ghosts of the past. "We must return, before unfounded suspicions coalesce like storms upon the horizon. We must cut through the fog surrounding this tragedy." As they left the church, Eliza's breath was shallow, her eyes darting, caught between the seen and unseen dangers looming at Holloway Manor. "Father, do you think what happened with that man? Is it connected to the letter?" "Connection is the spine of this mystery, dear Eliza," Father Brown replied, his mind racing as he noted the dark clouds gathering overhead. "It is all intertwined, the past with the present, the living with the lost. We must approach this with the utmost care, for shadows linger, long after the light has vanished." When they reached Holloway Manor, a suffocating gloom wrapped around them. The house loomed like a sentry, bearing witness to what had transpired, its windows darkened with a sense of foreboding. They were greeted by a hushed gathering of family members, eyes wide and anxious in the dim light. Each face reflected a mosaic of unease, yet one stood out. The stranger from the previous night, his smile unperturbed amidst the disarray. "Ah, Father Brown, I see we've converged to unravel another thread of this tapestry woven with betrayal." His voice dripped with mockery, casting a chilling hue on the atmosphere. "What do you know of the young man?" Father Brown demanded, unwilling to allow the unease in the room to consume them. "More than you might guess," the stranger replied, his eyes glinting with mischief. "But alas, I'm afraid the details escape me for the moment. However, one could muse that perhaps he unearthed truths better left hidden." Eliza's hand tightened around Father Brown's arm. "What do you mean?" "Ah, the familiar notes of despair. I merely ponder how fate can orchestrate symphonies of consequence at the most unexpected moments." He turned, a swift movement that betrayed no fear for what lay ahead. Then again, would not the secrets of the Wren family share a stage with the Holloways, a theater of guilt and deception? The weight of the stranger's words pressed on Father Brown as he felt the shadows deepen. There was a melody hidden within their dark histories, a nocturne composed of echoes from the past that blended and twisted, revealing layers of betrayal and longing. The storm outside intensified, thunder rumbling like the distant growl of vengeance. With a heavy heart, Father Brown scanned the faces of those gathered, sensing their concealed motives as they turned inward. Misdirection is a fine tool to wield, he said slowly, but it often backfires, revealing more than intended. Perhaps that young man was in possession of a truth that rattled even you, dear strangers. Just then, a penetrating silence filled the room, each heart racing under the weight of implication. Eliza gasped, pointing toward the heavy oak door that creaked under a gust of wind. There, on the threshold, remained an envelope, pinned beneath the door as though delivered by the hand of fate itself. "Father, it bears the crest of the Wren family," Beaumont murmured, stepping closer. The room filled with apprehensive breaths as the stranger's gaze darted toward it, a flicker of something akin to fear momentarily shadowing his features. Father Brown stepped forward, picking up the envelope with deliberate care. A chill ran down his spine. This was the moment that could unravel the tangled web beyond redemption. As he broke the seal and unfolded the letter within, the storm raged outside, a fitting symphony to the chaos within. With each word deciphered, the truth beckoned like a distant shore, promising to reshape everything they thought they knew about loyalty, betrayal, and the ghosts that haunted Holloway Manor. The misunderstandings that had culminated in such tragedy were waiting to be unveiled, like shadows at Matins. And the truth, a truth that clung like mist, was about to reveal itself, striking at the heart of all they once held dear. Chapter 8. The Chest Beneath the Stairs. As dusk settled like a shroud over Holloway Manor, the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows upon the walls, creating an almost living canvas of unease. Thunder rumbled in the distance, rumbling like the whispers of secrets, long buried but clawing their way back to the surface. Father Brown found himself drawn towards a narrow alcove beneath the grand staircase, a space cloaked in dust and shadow that beckoned with an unsettling familiarity. He could almost hear the echoes of forgotten conversations, the remnants of the past gnawing at the present. "Father, what are you looking for?" Lady Eliza's voice pierced through his reverie, her tone laced with both curiosity and trepidation. He glanced over his shoulder, her wide eyes reflecting the same tumultuous energy that crackled in the air, as if they both sensed that something significant lay beneath the layers of time. "I am not entirely certain, my dear," he replied, kneeling on the cold, hardwood floor to peer into the darkness where dust motes floated like lost souls. "But sometimes our very own curiosity can lead us to the answers we never knew we sought." The storm rattled the windows, a sudden gust of wind making the candles dance and flicker. Father Brown's keen eyes caught a glimpse of something unusual, a wooden chest, harmoniously entwined with the shadows. It stood abandoned and neglected, the once vibrant paint now muted by layers of dust and neglect. He approached it cautiously, almost reverently, and brushed his fingers over the surface. The coolness of the wood sent a thrumming sensation through his fingertips. "What's that?" Eliza asked, stepping closer, her voice tinged with intrigue. "A chest, I believe," Father Brown murmured, running his hand along its edge, "one that bears the weight of history." He looked at her, sensing the questions swirling in her heart. Is it not curious how such places often hold remnants of love and sorrow, artifacts of paths once traveled? With a gentle tug, he opened the creaky lid, the sound echoing sharply in the stillness of the corridor. Inside lay a collection of photographs, letters, and delicate keepsakes, all tinged with the sepia of forgotten memories. The scent of aged paper and damp wood wafted up, stirring his heart with an ache that felt hauntingly familiar. Amongst the clutter, a striking photograph captured his eye. It depicted a young woman with dark, flowing hair, her smile radiant even in the muted tones of the past. Eliza leaned over his shoulder, her breath hitching softly. "Is that—" she started, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, Clara. Wren," he said, studying the features of the woman beneath the dust. "It seems the echoes of her life reach further than we anticipated." With a purposeful grip, he lifted the photograph and examined it carefully. Scrawled on the back, in elegant handwriting, was a quote, "Love is never lost, even when hearts are torn." His heart fluttered at the weight of those words. "That is beautiful," Eliza remarked, her voice a blend of admiration and sadness. "But still, tragic." "A hauntingly poetic truth," Father Brown said, placing the photograph aside to delve deeper into the chest's contents. Tucked beneath the photographs were letters, lovingly penned correspondences between Clara and a mysterious recipient. As Father Brown unfolded one, he recognized the ink as a rich, deep blue. The words were passionate, rife with longing, and peppered with references to meetings held under the veil of night. His instincts prickled. Each letter seemed to unravel another thread in the tangled web of relationships that defined the Holloways and the Wrens. "Eliza," he said, his voice low, "these letters speak of love entwined in anguish, a bond as fragile as the paper on which it's written." "But what of the scandal, the whispered accusations?" she pressed, her features etched with concern. He pondered her words, sorting through the legacy of pain they seemed to encapsulate. "These artifacts do not speak of evil, but rather of choices made under duress, perhaps even desperation. It is clear Clara Wren was entangled with matters of the heart, entangled to the point of suffering." As he sifted through the remnants of Clara's life, a small key slipped between his fingers, its ornate shape glimmering slightly under the dim light. "Ah, what have we here?" he mused, lifting it gently between his thumb and forefinger. Eliza's eyes widened. Could it open something significant? A hidden truth, perhaps, Father Brown noted, the pieces of the puzzle coming together in his mind. Every lock has its key, and this key appears to be an expression of trust or of a desire to seal something too precious to expose. Before they could speculate further, the heavy silence of the manor shattered abruptly. The door creaked open, revealing the stranger from the previous night, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips. "Ah, Father Brown, what fascinating treasures do we uncover beneath the stairs?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "What do you want?" Father Brown countered sharply, not willing to cower before the man's ominous presence. "Surely you haven't come merely to gloat." "On the contrary, I'm here to tutor you," the stranger purred, his tone slyly mocking. "You see, the essence of these artifacts lies not just in love lost or found, but in the tangled knots of betrayal interwoven within them. Wouldn't you agree?" Father Brown felt the tension constricting around them like a noose. "Betrayal? Or perhaps the willingness to protect those we hold dear," he said slowly, searching the stranger's face for cracks in that facade, unable to ignore the sense of danger that lingered. Such a delightful delusion, the stranger chuckled, stepping fully into the room. But I assure you, all that is concealed has its way of clawing back into the light. Truth has a weight that can only be borne by those willing to face it. His gaze shifted toward the chest, then returned to Father Brown, a predatory gleam flickering within his eyes. I wonder, can you bear the truth? Storm clouds gathered overhead, a fitful gust of wind rattling the windows as the stranger's words hung in the air like a delicate note, echoing the haunting refrain from Clara's letters. Father Brown knew instinctively that they were on the precipice of uncovering something far more dangerous than the scattered remnants of history. The past was vying for retribution, and it found its voice in the present. Eliza, he turned to her, urgency flipping the calmness of their investigation. We must find what this key unlocks. As Eliza nodded resolutely, her fingers brushing the chest's edges, Father Brown could feel the shadows coiling around them. Promises of revelations, swirling like mist in the air. The storm mounted outside, an omen of both consequence and revelation, ready to unleash upon them the full weight of the lives caught within this twisted narrative of love and regret. They were bound for the truth, wherever it might lead, a tempest that was only just gathering speed. Chapter 9. The Cross in the Attic. The storm intensified as Father Brown ascended the creaking staircase towards the attic, the wooden steps groaning beneath him as if in protest. Each crack of thunder reverberated through the manor, amplifying the unease that clung to the air. Lady Eliza trailed closely behind, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. Father, do you truly believe we will find anything of value in this old place? She questioned, half hopeful, half skeptical. Sometimes the answers lie hidden in the most unexpected corners, he replied, his voice tempered with conviction. As they reached the attic door, he paused, inhaling the musty scent of untouched memories. With a steady hand, he pushed the door open, and it swung inward with a reluctant groan, revealing a dimly lit space cluttered with relics of the past. Pale beams of moonlight filtered through a small, grimy window, illuminating dust motes that danced like spirits in the stillness. Father Brown stepped inside, his keen gaze scanning the disarray. A time-worn trunk, a stack of old books, and various forgotten keepsakes scattered across the floor. But it was an ornate box, resting precariously on a shelf, that caught his attention. The craftsmanship was exquisite, hints of gold leaf glinting in the dim light. Be cautious, Father, Eliza whispered, her tone almost reverent. There's a certain darkness in attics. They bear witness to secrets long forgotten. Father Brown nodded, but his thoughts were already racing. The letters, the photographs from the chest beneath the stairs, they had painted vivid images of passion and sorrow tied to the Wren family. What might lie hidden here? As he approached the box, the air grew thick with anticipation. He reached for it, fingers trembling slightly, and lifted it down with careful deliberation. Inside, he found an array of old trinkets, each item steeped in the stories of those who once possessed them. But nestled among them was a cross, worn yet unmistakably dignified, its edges dulled with time. It was a striking juxtaposition against the scattered chaos, a sentinel of the past. Father, what is it? Eliza asked, drawing closer, her eyes widening at the sight. It is a cross, its origins unknown, but its presence speaks of devotion, he replied, turning it over in his hands, feeling the cool metal against his palm. And yet, it may hide much more than mere symbolism. Do you think it bears any connection to the tragedy that has unfolded? Eliza ventured, her voice trembling slightly, a shiver racing down her spine at the implication. I fear it may, Father Brown murmured, scrutinizing the cross for markings or initials. He quickly noticed an engraving at the arm of the cross, obscured by the thin layer of dust. He gently wiped it clean, revealing the initials CW, the initials of Clara Wren. Eliza breathed, taking a step back. Is it possible this belonged to her? Perhaps, Father Brown mused, or someone deeply entwined within her story. Either way, this object holds significance that could unlock further understanding of the events surrounding her demise. Just then, another clap of thunder reverberated through the attic, causing dust to scatter from the rafters. Eliza flinched, the sound echoing ominously as it mingled with her growing sense of unease. What do we do now? Investigate further, he replied. His decision made. We need to look closely at what else lies in this attic. As they continued their search, they stumbled upon a dusty ledger buried beneath a pile of old clothes. Father Brown carefully brushed off the top, revealing pages filled with meticulous handwriting. A record, he said, his heart racing with discovery. This might contain the names of those who visited Holloway Manor, as well as details of their dealings. It could provide context to Clara's relationships. Look, Eliza pointed, her eyes flitting across the pages. Many entries are dated around the time of Clara's last correspondence. Father Brown's brow knitted in concentration. He skimmed the ledger, recalling snippets of Clara Wren's letters, her hidden yearnings, the entrapping desire for something just out of reach. One entry, dated the night before her murder, mentioned a mysterious visitor whose name was written in an unusually hurried script. J. Devlin. Who is J. Devlin? Eliza asked, her voice hushed as she studied the ledger. Could this individual be involved with the Wren family? Higher names carry heavier motives, Father Brown reflected, his mind racing through the potential layers of intrigue. Could this be the same individual who was seen lurking within the confines of the manor during that fateful night? The rumors of an affair, a scandal kept hidden. Their investigation was abruptly interrupted by the sound of footsteps echoing from the stairwell, sending a chill through both of them. Their breath caught in their throats as the attic door creaked open. Glancing sideways, Father Brown steeled himself, ready for confrontation. The figure who appeared was none other than the stranger from earlier, his expression a mix of amusement and disdain. Ah, I should have known you'd go rummaging through the heart of the manor, he drawled, leaning against the doorframe, finding remnants of the past, while attempting to unearth what really transpired. Why are you here? Father Brown demanded, his voice steady despite the sudden tension. Simple curiosity like yours, the stranger replied, a glint of malice dancing in his eyes. But it seems you've uncovered quite a treasure, both the cross and that ledger. Though tell me, do you truly believe that uncovering the past will lead to justice? Father Brown shrugged, clutching the cross tightly. It is not justice I seek. It is understanding. The truth carved from hidden motives and scarred souls often provides the clearest insight. The stranger laughed, but it held a calculated edge. Ah, philosophical, very noble. He stepped further into the attic, casting his gaze around, lingering on the cross that Father Brown held. But know this, some truths are meant to remain buried. Tread carefully, Father Brown, for you may unearth not just skeletons, but the rage of those who prefer their secrets to stay hidden. Before Father Brown could respond, the man turned abruptly, making his way out of the attic, leaving behind a heavy residue of tension. "What does he know?" Eliza whispered, anxiety creeping into her voice. "I'm not entirely sure, but he speaks as though he manipulates the strings of fate from the shadows," Father Brown replied, his thoughts swirling. "We must unravel the truths binding Clara Wren to J. Devlin, the cross, and what horrors lie in the heart of her story." As they resumed their search, the cross felt like a weight, a burden of knowledge acquired yet burdensome. The thunder rattled the attic once more, as if signaling imminent revelation. Yet within that same embrace lay the spectre of danger. Somewhere in that attic, mingled among cherished memories and lingering regrets, the climax of this dark mystery awaited them. And as the rain poured outside, promising to wash away all that was hidden, Father Brown sensed they were nearing a revelation, a moment that could either illuminate souls or plunge them further into darkness. With steely resolve, he prepared to face whatever shadows still lingered in the corners of Holloway Manor, knowing full well that the true battle lay not just in solving the mystery, but in unearthing the spirits that still haunted its legacy. Chapter 10. The Final Trap. A single candle flickered on the mantelpiece, casting a wavering light through the gathering darkness of Holloway Manor's drawing room. The rain lashed against the tall windows, creating a symphony of chaotic taps and roars that matched the brewing tempest of emotions among the room's occupants. Father Brown stood before them, eyes sharp beneath his brow, taking in the assortment of faces illuminated by the dim glow. Lady Eliza, with her steadfast gaze, remained close, reluctantly clutching the cross they'd discovered in the attic. The air quivered with unspoken words as tension thrummed within the confines of the manor. "Ladies and gentlemen," Father Brown began, his voice rich and steady, soothingly melodic amidst the storm's fury, "we find ourselves at a crossroads, confronted by the shadows of the past. It is within our grasp to untangle the web of deceit that has ensnared us all." His audience consisted of several guests from the recent Wren events. The elusive Julian Devlin, whose smirk betrayed a self-assured arrogance; Lady Margaret Wren, Clara's distraught mother, whose eyes shimmered with unshed tears; the dignified but distant Lord Wren; and George Harrison, the family's steadfast caretaker, whose craggy face betrayed his own secrets. Each was drawn into this gathering, not by mere curiosity, but by a silent, pressing fear of the truth unveiled. Before we delve into the intricacies of morality and the truths we must confront, I must remind you, he paused, allowing the weight of his words to land heavily. It is not our judgment that awaits us, but the reckoning of our own choices. This sentiment hung in the air, heavy and poignant, as the storm raged outside. Eliza shifted slightly, her hand tightening around the cross, and he deftly caught her gaze before returning to the room. "I have gathered you here under the pretense of reflection, but it is deeper than that. I am setting a trap for the hidden truths you all carry." Murmurs rippled through the gathering, and the walls seemed to lean in. Lord Wren's brow furrowed in confusion, while Lady Margaret's face paled. You mean to deceive us, Father?" she stammered. "Not deceive," he replied thoughtfully, "but to expose. Each of you has something to offer the truth that I seek. Secrets float just beneath the surface, waiting for illumination. We cannot let Clara's legacy rest in shadows merely because we fear what lies unveiled." Julian's smirk widened, as if he found amusement in this noble endeavor. "And how do you propose we plunge into these depths, Father? With theatrics or sheer vexation? It will not be theatrics, Mr. Devlin, Father Brown countered, but rather a series of questions designed to peel back those layers of deceit. The truth, like the rain, will not be silenced forever. It will break through. As the rain intensified, forming curtain-like sheets on the windows, a brittle patter echoed against the glass. Father Brown waved them forth, inviting each light into the fray. First, I wish to focus on an object. He retrieved the cross from Eliza and held it aloft, an emblem of devotion, yet also a relic of something darker. This once belonged to Clara Wren. It is a symbol of faith and love, yet it was found among trinkets of the past. To whom does it truly belong? A signifier of guilt, perhaps. The gathering's unease thickened. All eyes were on the cross, as though it had become a talisman of their lurking secrets. Father Brown's voice softened. Lady Margaret, can you speak of this? Lady Margaret's hands trembled as she surprisingly met his gaze. Clara had spoken of such an object. She believed it protected the family, a cherished heirloom, but she was so lost in her turmoil. We considered sending her away for help. Her mention of help sent a ripple of concern that swept silently like the evening breeze. Sent away? Eliza interjected quickly, her voice sharp. To where? Who's been aiding her? Suddenly, Julian's smirk vanished, and George Harrison stepped forward, guilt etched upon his face. She confided in me. I had tried to protect her. She was entangled in something bigger than any of us could understand. J. Devlin, he whispered, but the name hit like stone against glass, shattering the silence. Julian's composure faltered, though it quickly returned. Enough. Clara was nothing but a tragic fool. Do not dare think I had a hand in her demise. But Father Brown's keen eyes saw the flicker of uncertainty pass through Julian's carefully curated mask. Ah, so we tread on fragile ground, Mr. Devlin. Only a tragic fool would lose herself in the arms of a beast while believing she could tame it. His gaze locked onto Julian. And whose heart did Miss Wren warm that night? It seems there's more at stake than we imagined, Father Brown pressed, his tone diligent yet patient. But how does this connect to the ledger we found? The entry of the visitor? George? His eyes darted across the room, the tension pulling tighter. As if piqued by the challenge, George bowed slightly before addressing the group with courage. The ledger? Clara and the visitor were meeting clandestinely. J. Devlin loved her, perhaps too much, or wanted something she could not give. He cast a hesitant glance at Julian, whose facade began to crack. Father Brown sensed the shifting air, the sparks dancing from face to face. So, tragedy begets more questions than it answers. Who truly loved Clara enough to lose all reason? Did you try to save her, George, or to entrap her into a sordid tale? But before George could respond, thunder split the silence, bringing an unsettling pause. The door swung open, revealing the stranger wrapped in a cloak, glistening with rain, mingled with fury. He stepped into the room, eyes glinting with mischief. Did I miss the gathering of souls, The stranger chuckled, a disposable familiarity rife with mockery. Or has Father Brown prepared a delightful ending to a sordid tale? I've come to collect my due, you see. Father Brown's expression stiffened. In one motion, he gestured toward the fireplace, redirecting attention. Before you articulate your desires, dear friend, perhaps your hidden motives would illuminate our tangled web. The stranger chuckled dryly. I advise caution. Not all truths seek to be born into light. Not all shadows lighten, Father Brown. And with that, the evening's tensions crescendoed, hearts quickening in realization. Father Brown felt a newfound urgency and purpose swelling within him as he seized the atmosphere, pressing tightly around their shoulders. But just as the stranger spoke those chilling final words, a loud crash reverberated beyond the manor, a sudden shattering that fractured the air like glass. The storm had dislodged something vital, and suddenly Father Brown, amidst the echoing tumult, had a sense they were on the brink of revelation or chaos. "Gather your wits, my friends," he declared, "for the final trap might very well spring unexpectedly tonight." As the candle flickered dimly in the gale, Father Brown leaned closer to the group. The trap had been set, and the key to unlocking their grim destiny hung precariously in that room's judgment. Chapter 11. The Confession Beneath the Willow. The rain had not ceased its relentless fall, thickening the air with moisture and tension as Father Brown stepped into the sprawling garden of Holloway Manor. The paths were slick with water, reflecting the muted grey of the sky above, mirroring the restlessness thrumming in his heart. Far at the end of the garden stood the old willow tree, its branches swaying like skeletal fingers, beckoning him closer. Within this secluded place, he sensed the turbulent emotions that lingered just beneath the surface of the manor's facade. Father Brown paused by the tree, peering into the shadows cast by its drooping boughs. The storm's cacophony dimmed, replaced by the soft whisper of falling rain against the leaves, wrapping the world in a dampened silence that felt charged with the possibility of revelation. Then, as if summoned by an unseen force, Julian Devlin appeared, his silhouette framed by the twisting branches, a creature of habit betraying his once elegant demeanor in the eye of the storm. "Father Brown," Julian said, his voice smooth yet edged, "what a curious place for a conversation. One might think you were hoping for a bit of privacy from the rest of the household. Or perhaps in search of honesty among the shadows," Father Brown countered, his gaze steady and inscrutable. Julian's smirk was quick, almost rehearsed, but the flicker of fear that danced in his eyes told another story. "What is it you think to extract from me, Father? We both know that confessions flow more readily in the dark." "That they do, Mr. Devlin," Father Brown replied, his tone firm yet gentle. "But like water, the truth will evade us if we do not face it directly." He stepped closer, drawing the younger man into the charged atmosphere that pulsed between them. "The matter of Clara Wren weighs heavy on all of us. Her shadow haunts these gardens." Julian's laughter was hollow, a careful mask. "Clara's spectre is a burden best borne by her mother and father. What was she but a naive child, lost in her own fantasies? Or a soul engulfed by forces far darker than her dreams?" Father Brown mused, tilting his head slightly. "It's not lost on me that you were among the last to see her alive. Perhaps you can illuminate those final moments." The words hung thick in the air, thickening the tension. Julian's shoulders bristled, an involuntary reaction that did not go unnoticed by Father Brown. "You think to lay blame at my feet, Father?" Julian's voice raised an octave, but even the storm seemed to lean in curiously, listening. "I seek the truth," Father Brown replied calmly. "You speak of Clara's naivete, yet you too are entwined in this tragedy. What was your purpose at the Wren Manor? Love, obsession, or something infinitely darker?" A ripple of emotion crossed Julian's face, one that could not be held back in the presence of such earnest inquiry. It was infatuation, perhaps. A silly little game played among the rich and the restless. He spat, defiantly, yet the quiver in his voice contradicted his bravado. That is all it was, I swear it. Father Brown took a measured step closer, sensing the cracks in Julian's facade. Tell me about that night. Clara was troubled. You must know more than you let on. The ledger hinted at clandestine meetings. Meetings shared with a visitor who remains nameless. I told her to stay, away from him. She wouldn't listen. Julian's expression shifted from disdain to raw anger, shattered by memory. That beast, Devlin's shadow, was a cancer, slowly consuming her spirit. I could only watch as she fell deeper. Did you feel helpless, Mr. Devlin? Or did your heart drown in jealousy instead? Julian's back stiffened. The rain cascaded around them, each drop striking like nerve endings. He faltered. Steps of revelation struggled against the heavier weight of defenses. It was not jealousy, it was guilt. I wished I could save her, to pull her away from the precipice. Then what truly happened? In that moment, something shifted beneath the willow's branches, as Julian's expression darkened, reflecting the turmoil of a man caught in a storm of his own making. A confrontation. That night, things escalated. Clara was desperate. She breathed fire and play, but every word ignited a spark between us. That smoldered into something more, a flame that could consume you both. Julian stepped back, the distance between them charged with an emotive gravity. Moments passed precariously before he dropped his gaze. Perhaps there were touches too far. A whisper, a promise broken amidst the tempest. How was I to know it would end the way it did? Father Brown's heart thudded within his chest, sensing the truth echoing from the depths of Julian's confessions. You never went through with what you'd planned, the love or the rage. Yet you know that shadows dance with secrets. Something unspeakable lay beneath your desires. Don't paint me as a monster, Father, Julian cried. The floodgates opened, pain clawing at his heart. I loved her. I tried to protect her, but failed, as history has shown itself time and again. My failure cost her everything. At this pivotal moment, they were not alone. The darkness at their feet pulsed with a different energy, tension locked around the truth, waiting to be unearthed. Forced confessions ached to fill the silence. Then tell me precisely what happened beneath this very willow tree, Father Brown pressed, his voice firm yet soft. And perhaps then you shall free both your conscience and your heart. As Julian swallowed hard, the weight of guilt settled heavy upon his shoulders. It was more than just the memory of that night. It was the unintended consequence, a burden that sought release. I never meant for it to happen. But in that moment beneath the willow, when it rained like this, something broke in her, in me. Suddenly, a flash of lightning split the sky above, casting stark illumination upon their shadowed figures. Julian's words hung in the charged atmosphere, and before he could continue, thunder roared, drowning him out. But it was the flash of clarity, multidimensional and sharp, that cut through the essence of the truth lurking nearby. Wait just a moment, Julian, Father Brown interjected quickly, his mind racing as he recognized a crucial piece of the puzzle. You mentioned a visitor, a clandestine meeting. Clara's shadow has twisted larger than either of us, but I fear there's more than mere human frailty at play here. Julian's gaze narrowed, uncertainty creeping into his expression. What is it you think you see, Father? Perhaps the answers lay not just in unsung confessions, but also in the mark left upon Clara, the mark of those she trusted and those which she didn't. Tell me, do you recognize this? Father's voice dropped to a whisper, a captured reflection of accusation. He produced an object seemingly from thin air, a small ornate locket with the initials CW inscribed upon its surface. Julian's breath caught, a pallor sweeping across his face. Where did you get that? Is this the object that started this somber tale? Father Brown pressed. Did Clara wear this when she met you beneath the willow? Tell me what this signifies, and perhaps then we can unveil the truth shrouded in shadows. As the last word fell, dark and heavy across the rain-soaked garden, the air seemed to thicken with anticipation. Every heartbeat echoed, promising that the next confession would unravel even more hidden depths in this tangled web, leaving the lingering question looming cruelly in the silence. What of the stranger and his myriad of secrets who still lingered in the shadows? And so, beneath the willow, as echoes of regret surged and the storm raged on, Father Brown braced for revelations that could shatter illusions entirely. With each word spoken, they neared a precipice, forged from sorrow, teetering on the edge of truth that would perhaps define them all. Chapter 12. The Silence Within the Music Box. The storm had abated, but left a lingering chill in the air, saturating every corner of Holloway Manor with a desperate sense of urgency. As Father Brown stepped inside the grand foyer, the silence within the house was palpable, a stark contrast to the chaos just moments before. Water dripped steadily from his overcoat, punctuating the stillness as he moved with purpose toward the drawing room. It was there, he suspected, that the final pieces of the puzzle would come together. He found the group still gathered. The weight of tension had morphed into a stillness, as if the very shadows in the room were holding their breath, waiting for the next revelation. Father Brown could sense their collective unease. Julian Devlin stood apart from the others, the flickering candlelight casting uneven shadows across his face, illuminating the nervous tremor in his hands. Father Brown, Clara Wren's mother, Lady Enid, stated with a voice trembling with both fear and strength, "Have you resolved anything? We can hardly bear another round of unsettling truths. I believe our evening storm has scattered some hidden debris, revealing the way to clarity," Father Brown replied, his voice calm, yet charged with a deeper meaning. "Clarity," Julian echoed, his tone darkened by the weight of his past choices, every syllable dripping with irony. What kind of clarity can possibly exist in such tragedy? Perhaps a clarity built from honesty, Father Brown interjected gently, and the final thread in this tapestry, the music box. At the mention of the music box, a murmur swept through the group. They had nearly forgotten its haunting presence after their tangled revelations had consumed all their attention. "Have you found it?" Lady Enid inquired, her eyes darting to Julian, as if searching for a glimmer of guilt lurking behind his facade. Father Brown raised an eyebrow, understanding well the emotional weight that the music box held for each of them, a vessel of memories, secrets, and perhaps even darker truths. "No, but I believe we must speak more of its significance. It's not merely a trinket, but a key to what transpired, to the heart of Clara's unraveling." "It was just a gift," Julian snapped, a flash of defensiveness crossing his face, a naive gesture of fondness between friends. "Friends?" Father Brown leaned closer, his voice growing softer but firmer, dissecting Julian's defensiveness layer by layer. "Does a friend not acknowledge their shadows? Does a friend ignore the consequences of their actions?" Julian flinched at the pointed inquiry. The fight, momentarily draining from his posture. Around them, the other guests shifted uneasily, drawn into the emotional fray. Lady Enid's eyes glistened as she spoke. She was just a girl, Father, a soul lost among people who should have protected her. You speak of shadows, but we all know that shadows must be cast by something. Lost girls become lost dreams, and dreams often hold secrets, Father Brown mused, but I fear this dream has become a nightmare. Just then, a delicate but persistent sound echoed faintly towards them, weaving into their tense atmosphere like a ghost of the past. Father Brown moved to the corner of the room where a small side table held the very music box they had discussed. Its ornate carvings seemed to shift hauntingly under the dim light. He approached cautiously, sensing the gravity it held for Lady Enid, who regarded it with a mixture of reverence and dread. "Open it," she urged in a whisper, thick with apprehension. "You must uncover its song." With deliberate care, Father Brown eased the box open, half expecting the mournful tune to escape like trapped spirits. Instead, silence hung thick around them, denying music its rightful place, yet paradoxically echoing the unspoken truths they all carried. The innards glinted, a delicate mechanism devoid of its voice, and his mind raced with realization. "Why is it silent, I wonder?" he mused aloud, inspecting the mechanism while catching the expressions of those assembled. "What meaning is it supposed to have? Does the melody hold answers?" asked Julian, his mint-green eyes betraying a sudden flicker of enlightenment, perhaps dawning awareness. "It holds the echoes of Clara's last night, does it not?" Father Brown replied shrewdly. "Tell me, Julian, what did you do with it before she—" "I never touched it," Julian asserted defensively. Yet even as he spoke, Father Brown noted an uncontrollable tremor in his hands, slight changes in his demeanor that drew the priest's keen observational instincts. "I wouldn't have destroyed her precious keepsakes. But would someone do that to erase their own guilt? To mask the secrets that could drown them?" Father Brown's voice pressed deeper into the fracture lines of Julian's emotional barrier, and he turned to the others. "Tell me, when last did you see Clara with this box? Was it with you, Julian? Did she seem agitated?" "No, it was all innocent," Julian lashed back, but Father Brown recognized an underlying current in the words, an instinctive need to shield something darker. "We spoke of goals, dreams, but it became too much. She was restless." Father Brown hesitated, considering his next move. And yet beneath those quiet chords of friendship, a song turned to discord when Clara's spirit began to fracture. "What happened that evening beneath the willow? It's time you reveal the truth." For a moment, silence layered upon silence. Shadows danced around them, and the old manor creaked with latent energy as a sudden gust ruffled the curtains. The stage was set for revelation. "I tried to save her from herself," Julian finally broke, remorse flooding his voice. "But the more I clawed to pull her away from the darkness, the more she pulled me in. When I realized the weight of our actions—" "Her secret visitor," Father Brown interjected, seizing upon the critical opening in Julian's fragmented confession. "The one you warned her against. This music box. It must have been the catalyst. Did it not help foster trust in lies?" "Yes," Julian whispered, now peering at the music box as if it were the embodiment of his furor. "The last time I saw her, it was after I confronted her about him. The box lay on her vanity. She was about to tell me everything. And did you not return that box to her?" Father Brown's voice softened, yet the sharpness retained its edge, drawing out a pang of desperation in Julian's reaction. Thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the escalating chaos within the room. No, I left her there. The storm had begun, and in that darkness, your heart was complicit, Father Brown continued. Faced with the silence within the music box, one bearing witness to it all, it allowed you to turn away, did it not? What then, if it was always meant as much more than empty promises? Then Julian collapsed into silence, the emotional dam holding back guilt shattering as raw pain flooded through the contours of his expression. It was then that Father Brown felt it, a deeper subconscious chord resonating through the air, swirling back toward the box, lingering like sweet agony. And so you silenced it, Lady Enid breathed, finally understanding. To bury the truth? No, Julian growled, fighting against an invisible force within himself. That's not it. I thought... But Father Brown stepped forward, the pieces coalescing in perfect alignment. What if the music box contains a final message? What if Clara knew she was in danger, leaving behind her ultimate truth, hidden among the notes that never played? Suddenly, with a mind gripped by inspiration, he leaned closer before the mechanism. A flicker of possibility sparked, urging him to give this silence a voice. Scrutinize the box, my friends, he urged, traces from Clara and the urgency in her melody, each psychological note perhaps shaped by a lover's hand or a villain's shadow. The truth was, waiting silently, the violent emotions bubbling beneath the calm music box that held in its whisper the key to all their fates. But as he turned to the party, the tension in the air vibrated. Revelation was just around the corner, and a call to clarity trembled in the spaces between them. Each moment spent in silence could change your fate, he proclaimed, heart racing in anticipation of unraveling the darkest truth hidden away. The music box, once a token of warmth, now hovered before them like an omen, its silence growing louder as another storm approached, one that promised to unveil secrets better left undiscovered. Father Brown braced for the storm of confessions that would soon drown them, the omens swirling in the air, and all the while his heart raced with the knowledge that the true killer lay closer than they could ever suspect, waiting for the moment to reveal themselves at last.